Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's August the 13th. I believe it's Wednesday, isn't it? I hope it's Wednesday. Yes, August 13th. This will be our chart lesson for today. Pretty good trading day today. There were a bunch of, well, I say a bunch, but there were 4 or 5 really good trades early on. This trade, if you didn't find anything but this trade right here today, um, and just traded 2 contracts, and scalped out on one and used the other for a runner. The first bar that backed up would have been there. I would have probably put my stop below that if I'm managing it. And if you saw the bigger channel, I would have waited till it got all the way up here. I wasn't sure about this channel that early on. I was looking at this being the down channel. We had the break, a new low. And I was really thinking this might be a trading range kind of day. But we went through that. We found some resistance, you can see right there, but it went right on through that, and it went right up to the upper trend channel line. And that's where it turned. It even tested it a second time before it sold off. And now, after it's touched the upper side, what do we expect to happen? We expect it to go to the other. We don't know exactly, it looked like for a minute it may go straight down there. But it didn't. It's chopped around, and it looks like there's maybe a bigger channel here. We've got a break, and what we're finding is that what was resistance up here has turned into support, and prices haven't been able to get through there. And so that's kind of changed the we had a little trouble getting through the midline for that matter, and so that's kind of changed the dynamics. But in the end, I'm guessing we're going to end up back down here trying to. There's not but maybe 30 minutes left. Will we get there? I don't know. But somebody made the comment, or a couple people lately, they'll say, you always sound so non-committal in the afternoon as to where prices are going. Well, understand this. You see this channel, and there's no doubt this channel is valid. It's very obvious where this channel is, and we know that prices are, once they get to one side, they're going to head to the other. You don't know exactly when they're going to reverse. Like it touched here, but it didn't reverse till here. And it could be that this is a little bit, it wouldn't surprise me if this is a little bit lower and this one's just a tad lower. And after looking at it a little bit earlier today, but I originally had it up there where I was showing it to you because we were going to talk about the early part of the price action. But because I usually use the closes. And but come to find out today, now generally when I start my line, I always use the highs or the lows. Very rarely will I start them through the closes at the highs or whatever, just like this one coming down. I start at the high, but I may use the closes. But what you want to do is find where it fits the best. And when I say fit the best, people don't seem to get what that says. But look at my channel working down here. Look what's happened every time prices touch. There's not very closes outside of it. Stems aren't, you might see a little stem or something sticking through, and here, this one may be just a little lower. And what it might be is this is probably a little bit flatter right there. And let's remove that one. And you see that fits a little bit nicer. And that means our midline is probably going to be. But you don't have to get it exactly right. But you got to be, you've got to be in the ballpark, if that makes sense. But, people will send me their chart, and they'll be very close, but they'll be so far off that they don't see there's been a break. Or they don't realize we just bounced off the low. But look at how well prices fit in that. There's some stem sticking through, but look, prices turned directly off of it there. They turned directly off of it there, to the tick there. We tried it twice there. There's a couple of more right there, probably closing off of it. So that's what I mean when I say fitting neatly. My line is not drawn like this, and things are sticking through, and then the upper one drawn like this, and I'll see trend lines like that, and people think they're valid, and most of them are closer than that. They're maybe they've got it like this, and they've got it like this at the bottom, and you can see there's some touches there. But notice how it's not touching, nothing's touching at the top until you get right here. So evidently some people probably drew that line right there and saw that low and drug it up to the high, because you see we found a little resistance there. So there was some people excuse me, My throat's bothering me a little bit for whatever today, but there were some people, you can see, you found a little resistance there. So there were some people looking at that, but it's not right. It's not, you don't get, it doesn't turn prices every time prices get to it. They're coming up short. So there's some other reason prices are turning down through there. So you have to get your lines close. And if you don't have your lines close, then you don't see that break right there and the new low and then the reversal. But if you saw the bigger channel, you didn't really need that anyway. But it was hard to find this bigger channel until you at least had that. You could find this line right here, but when prices went on through there, if you draw it off here, and just to show you, I'll drag it down here. And if you, that's where I would have had it originally, and they kind of go through there. So you're not sure about these. You don't have enough price action to verify that. But now look how well. Look what happened every time prices got to that point. They turn and they're going the other way. They've only been down here a couple times a day, but look, once, twice, three times, four times, we bounced right off that line. It's holding prices what I call neatly. And that's what you got to have. And look, going up here, prices are holding neatly. You finally get a close outside. You get a move to a new high. It's an unusual move to a new high, but that's because there's a bigger pattern here in play. And then it turns down, it goes up, it kisses it again, and it proves it, and off it goes. And by that time, if you can't find this line now and drag it down and then figure that's probably where we're going to get. Now, whether or not they'll go straight to it like this one does, and then a lot of that times in the afternoon, that's why I like to be done trading by noon, because most of your good price action movement is in the early hours, not before 9:30, 10, and definitely before lunchtime. So I like to be through by lunch, because in the afternoon sometimes the patterns fail. Things change and something else has come about or something's changed, and we may not get back down to here. But early on, you can see it was respect up till 10 o'clock, really until right here is where I would say it's probably starting to look like there's a possibility we may not get down to this low. I'm guessing that's where prices are still headed. We've got a break of this little channel, a move. We still don't have a new low. We've tested it twice, so we've got enough there for it to reverse. So it could reverse there and get back in the upper side and go higher. But that's why I'm a little non-committal about it, is because we don't know for sure what prices are going to do. We have a good idea that we're probably going down here, but you have to follow the price action. So when and if you get a trap or a setup, you just have to take it. And usually I'm not monitoring the price action that closely. Look how flat this EMA is here. You got to be real careful entering that as well. So I hope that makes sense as far as why sometimes I may sound so non-committal in the afternoon, because I am. I'm not paying much attention to it after that, and I may have stopped drawing my lines. You see, I don't have any. I'm not monitoring it much after this. I go ahead and mark a few trades, maybe up till 1 o'clock sometimes, and you can see since noontime, nothing. Look at all this volume before noon. And since noon, so really for almost the last 3 hours, we've made 15 bars here. There's nothing happening, and there's no trade setting up. There's nothing going on there. So, that's why I'm a little non-committal. One other thing I want to say is, where do all your best trades set up? If you've got an upsloping trend, where do your best trades set up on the bounces off that trend line? If you've got a trend line working down, where do the best trades set up? On reversal bars and patterns that set up off that trend line. Here's another one going up a shorter term one. Where are all the good trade setups? Right off that line. And when you get that line combined with the EMA, like in here, they're even better setups. So, and you never know when you're going to get a move like this. Did I know this was going to go this far? No. I just saw a good failed second entry setting up, and when it ticked higher, I waited on it to back up a few ticks. I dropped me a limit order in there, and I'm going to scalp out at 4 ticks, because it could go right to here and turn back down. But all I'm expecting is my 4 ticks, and I'm gonna hold a runner just in case. And guess what? My runners, look what they did. You got to ride this all the way up, and if you just waited till the first bar or waited till the next high, let's just see how far that was. I'm not sure exactly. depending on where you enter, if you just entered on a stop following our standard rules, you would have been at 38 and a quarter. This went all the way to 45 and a quarter. So that's 7 points right there on a single runner. If you have multiple runners, if you had two runners, sure, understand though, you're probably not going to get the whole 7 points. So let's just say you rode it to let's say you just saw the top of the channel and you rode it to there. All right, 38 and a quarter, and you exit at 40 up 4. So there's you 6 points right there, just doing something standard. And that's what you want to do, because sure, you could have got a few more ticks out of this thing, but you don't want to risk that because it could have turned down right here and went to the other side. So take what it'll give you, or you might just keep following this up, putting your stop under the next bar. That would have put you out at 41, basically 42. So 38 and a quarter to 42. That's what, almost 4 points, 3 3/4 points on one move. And so there's multiple ways you can manage those runners. I don't talk much about the runners, but the reason is because that's more of a personality kind of thing. I don't like to I don't like to see money in my trading account and then prices back up and take it away. Now there's some traders that like to enter here and just sit on this all day and hope it goes higher. But I can't stand to see, me have that 7 points in my can, so to speak, and then it back up and come back, and then I've only got 2 or 3. So I just I always pick some target or something, take my profits, and and here's another, this is one thing I use a lot. The market started there. There's your first move up, and then the second move started here. Look where your target is. And if you just get out a tick in front of that, look where it takes you to. And I show you that all the time. And that would have been what I was looking for a target on the way up. Okay, I'm back. But there's just so many ways you can do your runners. This is one of my favorites, is to use the target. And if you put that target on there and then you find this bigger channel and you see the channel up here, I mean, this is a no-brainer. Just hang on and put your stop a tick or two in front of that line and hang on and wait till it gets filled. And you get out, I mean, that gets you out within 2-3 ticks of that high. And it looks like it went another 2 ticks higher. So maybe you get out within 3 to 4 ticks of the high. I don't know very many systems that can do that. And look, we're going higher here. We're still, I mean, really, this is a flat. There's a trading range in here. And you can see the lows here. Put this line up there and you can see the highs right there. So we're kind of stuck in a trading range, and that is really kind of taking precedence over the channel. You can still see the bigger channel coming, that midline coming into play. It's still been acting. I would have been looking for prices to come down here, and they may still get there yet, but now it looks like they may go higher. So that's why when you hear me say, I don't know where prices are going for sure. I just know what the rules tell us, and but they're not so rigid that you want to go short right here and wait and watch this go against you or whatever. You got to follow the price action, and it can change at any time. And but you can see there's a trading range here, a small one, and it's about 40 to 43, so 41 to 43. It's about a 3 or 4 point range right there. And prices have been stuck in it since we bounced right here at 10:40 this morning. So prices hadn't been out of that 3 point range since 11 o'clock. And look how flat that EMA is, and look how prices are swinging back and forth to both sides. So you have to switch gears. And so, if it sounds like sometimes I'm a little non-committal in the afternoons, that's because I am. I'm not paying as close attention to it. Things might be changing, and I may not have a thought process of exactly where prices are going. But it's not because what we do doesn't work, and that's what some people insinuate, that you can't really do this. But I can assure you, you can, and I can assure you, I've called targets many a times and gone to the tick. But I'm not saying that because I want to sound like I'm bragging. I'm just saying you can do it. You can see that one right there. And how many times has people seen me show that? Show that. And once you know prices are going higher, most of the time it'll go right to that target. Sometimes it'll go a little further, sometimes it'll come up a little short, but it's generally right in that area. And I don't know any other way that you could call that high within 2 or 3 ticks like that and be that close. In fact, let's just see how far that we are off right there. There's your high. We called that within 1 tick of the high. I mean, in trading, that's as good as it gets, because nothing in trading is perfect. Nothing we do is perfect. And if it were, this would be easier to do. So I hope that makes sense to those that ask that, because that question's come up a few times lately. And it's generally from somebody that's struggling and can't figure it out. And so they start to question, can anybody really do this? And I get it. I've been there. I know how that works. But that's why I try to show some of the other performance when people send it to me, some of the other success stories when people send it to me, because I want you to see that there's other people that can do this, that see the exact same thing that I see every day. But let's move on to the chart lesson, because I'm 16 minutes into this and we haven't even talked about the first trade. But early on, I was looking at this, and if you come over here and look early on, I was more interested in this downtrend. We had a downward bias early this morning when I came in. The downward bias was starting when I came in at 7 o'clock. We had this little channel moving up. We had 2 legs to a new high, and then we had a nice little move down, a correction. And of course, you could find this trend line here first. You drag it up, and you may have to adjust it a little bit once you got a few more bars, but it wasn't much. Maybe just you might have to just move it just a hair or two, and then it's accurate. You get your break, you move to a new low, and it's reversed since then. And then you figure out later on there's a bigger pattern here, and that's why prices, you didn't need this bigger pattern because you had these lows across here, and there's support across here. And I would have had it drawn like that first, and I would have moved it to here. And then that sets this trade up right here. There, look at that double bottom, that little 1 tick trap. It turns up. We've had the break. It's a new low. And if you saw the channel, it's even, if I had known for certain that channel was valid already, that would be a blue and not a green circle. Look at those 2 legs down, the little trap, that reversal bar. It broke lower, turns, closes on its very high. You can see the double bottom. That's a sure trap. And if nothing else, we're coming back up to test this high probably, but look, it's gone. And any runners, if you caught a runner here and held it all the way, I'm just curious now. 35 and a quarter, and we had that within, that's 10 points. 10 points. And, you only got to catch one of those. Just one. And you made 10 points that day on a single contract. If you got 2 runners, that's 20 points. This one's a little harder to hold through all these swings. This one was simple, and the picture was much clearer by this time. So, again, when you enter here, you don't know that's going to happen. And just so people can know, I talked about entering this trade on our midday chart that I post, around 9 to 10 o'clock every day. And I explained how to enter that, and I didn't know it was going up there. I just know that there's a failed second entry short, there's a second entry long, looking for a retest of the highs, and boy, there it goes. And it turns out to be the trade of the day. But anyway, we had a downward bias early on, and so I was looking at that, and I really thought this. Look how flat that EMA is. Prices are swinging to both sides. It looks, I got my highs up here, I got my lows down here. I'm thinking it's probably a trading range. I figured we'd probably find some resistance here, maybe break higher, but probably get back, turn back down. But I didn't see the bigger channel yet. There was a possibility it was there, but it wasn't very clear. When we bounced here, a little more clear, but you couldn't really find this midline yet. So you need a little more price action. You just didn't have enough to really prove it out yet. And so you had to use other reasons. That's the really good thing. If you can find all of these reasons to enter right here, You've got two clear legs down, one more push to a new low, a trend line break. You got a support coming across here of a double bottom. You got support coming up here from a trend line. You've had your two measured legs down with a little trap. Um, it's bouncing close to the midline on this one. I mean, there's multiple reasons that are easy to see after the fact. If you can see them during real time, which many of them were there, that's when it's really a good trade. Like right here, you had the EMA behind your back. This was the first break of the trend line. There's a short trap here. So when prices went higher there, look at it go. And there's reasons to be looking at that. But anyway, back to our trades. We finally got it. There's a short right here. This one was a little, I drew this one in green because it is close to this low. This is like a breakout pullback short. It broke lower. It tried to go higher again, and it tried to go higher once again and turns down and closes on its low. That's a breakout pullback short. It's a test of the trend line. It was a test of the midline, which looked like it was probably, before it broke lower, was probably going to be the channel line. So there's a lot of reasons to think going short right there. And it was good for just a scalp, and then it bounces. And the only reason I didn't like going long, because there's two clear legs down there, but I didn't like going long there, even though it's a nice bullish bar, because it was right into the EMA. And it was the first break of that little trend line. There's no break or close outside of it yet. So there's a good chance it breaks and turns down and makes another push down before it goes up. Didn't happen that way, and you have to watch this one go without you. But that's what happens. That's the difference between a disciplined trader and an undisciplined trader, or an amateur trader. An amateur is going to see this, and the very next time it happens, he's going to jump on the bandwagon, probably right here, and end up with a loser. Or maybe even right here when it broke higher. He saw this big move up, it pulls back, and then it looks real bullish here, and he says, I'm not missing this one. He jumps in, and boom, it goes straight down. But he doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't realize there's a trend line there. He doesn't realize the trend is reversed to down. He's looking, he can't see that this it went a little less higher there than this swing, and then only went one tick higher, and then the next swing low is lower than that one, and then this swing low is lower than that one, and that one. Something's changed, because a strong trend, you keep making higher lows and higher highs like this, and on a downtrend, you continue to make lower highs and lower lows. And when you suddenly aren't doing that anymore, something's changed. So something's changed. I lost my place there. We were talking about this trade. Okay. So anyway, but just to wrap that up too, when something, once you recognize that this made a lower low, after you've been making higher highs and higher lows, something's changed. But let's go back to this trade. So you get a first entry, but you can find the trend line now. Even if you didn't have it, you have it off those. You tested it again, and so now you've got your confirmation right here, and you get a bearish bar. You might not have gone short below that one, but on this one, I probably would have dropped a limit order, maybe even a tick back. I don't think you're even out of question going short on just a stop right there, because you got plenty of room to get out before here. There's a little bit of overlap, but you're still making lower highs in this one, and you can see that the buyers ran out of juice there, and it doesn't take it long. But if you didn't go short right there, when you got this failed second entry long that broke higher and then turned down and goes out the other side, look how bearish that. You could go short below this bar, or just wait and put a stop right there. Either way, you're going down to make a new low, or you're going lower anyway. And you're going to probably not find support until somewhere right in here. It goes a little lower, then it bounces, and this time you get your trend line break, and there's a second entry short right here. But this is that same kind of thing. It breaks higher, fails, turns. I would have liked going short right out that bottom there on a stop already in place if It would have, but it didn't. So when it stopped and didn't close on its low, I'm thinking you better be wise and use a limit order, drop it a tick or so back in, let it break and go. Even with a stop, you probably would have been all right there. But it backed up just enough to fill an order there, and then it's off to the races again. Or was this my? Yeah, that's going to be my short there. And then by the time you get this one, there's a little trap there. It was tempting. I don't think it would have even worked though, but it's too close to, notice that low. This one barely went lower. You got your break now. It may go one tick lower, which it did, and reverse. I just think it's too close to the lows. You know, and that's, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. So there's 35. See, that would have been a 4-tick failure. And hopefully you can see that. You can't go low here. If you're going to risk it, you got to risk it up here. So you got room to get out before you get to the low. And I have one trader, he sends me a trade every week and that failed, and he can't understand why. And he's either going long right here or short right here every single time. And we have the same conversation every time. And then I don't know why he can't understand it. But I'm going to put his chart up in a minute, and I'll show you where, he was talking about going short. I think it was yesterday's chart, actually, not today's. But anyway, there's a long right here. It's a little aggressive unless you saw the channel. If you saw that channel and you knew there was a double bottom and the little trap and all the other things, and you saw the break, just take that long. It's worth the risk, because this is where, even if it backs up and goes lower, what are you out? 4 or 5 ticks? And if you get it right, and you hold a runner, you might even be able to get, what I say, how many points was it? 10 points. But if you don't see all this, don't take it, of course. But so I hate to encourage somebody to take what I have marked as aggressive trade, because I know people will do it and then they'll lose money, and it'll be my fault. But anyway, there's a second entry long here. Again, now you're so close to the highs. Look, there's not room to scalp out. Things did go back, and look at that high went right. Notice there's it hesitated a little bit, but there's no resistance off that EMA this time. And you should be seeing some resistance. It goes up, it pulls back, and then it turns higher. That's a second entry long. It's really close to the top. I don't like it, but I know some traders are going to take that trade. Okay, I had an interruption, kind of an extended one there, so I don't know where we were at. I think we were on this trade. I just think this is a risky trade if that's where we left off. Then you get your failed second entry short right here, went higher. I think it's okay to go long there. The fact that it didn't break higher here is a little concerning. So it makes it look more like a trading range, because now you got 3 bars, one overlapping. It's still probably okay to take it because it's a trap though, and you see it did back up, and as long as your stop was below your signal bar, you didn't get stopped out, but it's hard to watch that back up. So that one's a little bit iffy there. I went back and forth, but if when you look at it right there and no other bars, it looks really good. But when you see that little doji pop up there next, this one I could have easily made it green because of that little doji, but I kept it on there. But mainly because I took it and I kept my stop there and I wrote it out. And then of course you got a chance to add on here or enter here, which was the better entry. And again, because it didn't quite close on its high, when it breaks higher, this is one where you can slip in there with a limit order. And you could see it on my chart, on my midday chart where I posted it. You could see where it broke higher and it backed up, and you could have got filled a tick back into this thing easy. And that's when if you doubled up here, then that means you got multiple runners going. And it doesn't take but one trade like that to just mop up and make up for a lot of losers too if you're having trouble. So just something to think about. But this was my favorite trade of the day right here. And again, I didn't know that it's going up there. I just know that it's going to be a good you're going to probably get a scalp out of it. And that's all. And remember that's all any of our trades are designed to do. We're scalpers. And we use the runners for times like this. And then you get a little two-legged correction back. I really don't like this trade. Uh, but, a move that strong, you're almost always going to test the high again. And you can see that happen. So it's a second entry long. I would have waited on this bar. And or when this one broke higher, I would have dropped a limit order in there. And you see it came back on the next couple of bars. Actually, when this one closes a doji too, if you were in there, I'd probably exit that thing with whatever I could get out of it, a tick or two, and just move on. But there's some reasons to take that trade, and it would have worked if you hung on, but I just think it's risky. Then you're correcting here. I don't see any way to get in this one. It never would break higher until here, and then of course my favorite friend this is where he'd probably want to go short, because now he's seen it moving down and it breaks, and it's just too late now. So you just got to wait. And of course it breaks and turns down, and there's not a good setup there for a short. That's a horrible signal bar. This one didn't close on its low. You may not have had this channel line. I originally had it drawn right across there, and that's probably it anyway. But you can see it. If you drug it up, you'd have a target of some kind there. But when we overshot it here, it was kind of, I was really looking at the bigger picture now, and I'm thinking, well, maybe this is down here, and maybe it is, and maybe there's a midline in there. So, and you can see that's probably exactly what's going on right there. And that gives you some more reason to be careful about watching this bounce right here. And you can see where the market closed up here. We never got back down to the low, but that would be where you were looking for it to go. But guess what? You got your break of your little channel. You tried to go lower and make a new low. You pulled back. You tried one more. They failed. It's a double test to that area. I don't like going long there that late in the day, but when you got a trap or something, you could have gone long right there. And there's every reason to reverse now, even though we were expecting prices to come down here. So you got to follow the price action, and it can change. It can change quickly. So, but I like this one to the long side, and I used a green arrow because your line is up here. So you got to get in with enough room to get out before reaching that line. So that's why that one's green. The trend was really down now. We're looking for prices to come to the other side. It was the first close out. You might have had a little close outside right there because this may actually be a little steeper. And sometimes you don't know if it's not real clear. Maybe there's a close there and there's not. So, I'm thinking, we may push lower one more time, but there's no setup there to go short. And notice there's no rejection off the EMA either. And there's two legs down there, even though they're not. There's like two legs in this first leg, and then there's a second leg down that's equal to the first two. So it's a two-legged move to a new low. But when you got the trap, I think you want to consider going long there, especially with two bounces. There's your close, then a bounce, and another bounce off that. You just got to make sure you can get out before you get back up to a trend line. And you don't know exactly where that is. It could be off the high, which gives you more room, but notice how it didn't get there. I think it's off the closes there, and you can see that, and then you finally get the break and a move to a new low. And that's the next trade I liked. This is like a little congestion area. It's like a failed break higher. You tried to go higher once. There's your first entry, pull back. There's a second entry. So there's a failed second entry long there. It trapped people. You're expecting prices to go lower anyway, so I like that setup. That was the last trade of the day, and that was the last really good move of the day. Again, I don't like this. Let me talk about this one a minute. I don't like this setup bar, but when you saw this one, once it broke lower, really, when it broke lower here, you might have thought about the limit order, and when it broke lower here, I don't know if I'd use a stop there. It would have worked. But this is one where it didn't close on its low. Just put your limit order right at the very bottom. I mean, even if you can get in that one extra tick, sometimes that's all it takes. And if you can get one tick back into it, that's even better. So something to think about there. Just remember that. But be careful. I always say be careful with that because, and the reason being is that you're going to miss some really good trades if you try to get in every trade with a limit order. They don't always come back. Right here, prices never came back. You wouldn't have got filled, and you missed this whole move up here if you're trying to get in right there. So be careful with those, and only use them when the setup is just a little bit questionable, but you still like everything else about it. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's put up a chart here. Here's the guy that, and here he is. He's trying to go short right here. He's got his channel on there. Maybe he copied it off my chart. I don't know. He's got a channel there. Why would you? I mean, there's not even a good setup. It's just congestion. It's just 3 or 4 overlapping bars. But what's happened is he's probably watched it move all the way down here, and he's saying, I'm missing all these trades. Now I'm going to go short. But every time he sends me his chart, he either went long right here or short right here, or long right here or short right here, or long right here or short right here. I mean, it's consistent, and every time we talk about that, and I hope you're watching this one today. I'm not going to call his name, but understand that when you're going short, you got to figure out that the move is starting down. This is the really, I mean, that's not a very good signal bar on his chart, but there's the good second entry. Look at that huge move down. Look, notice how this low went right through the EMA. It's lower than this low, this low, this low. Lower than all that. I mean, that's telling you something. Then you get 2 legs back to the EMA, back to a possible trend line. It turns down. This is one where if I didn't use a stop, I'd probably try to get filled on a limit order. And if you miss that, look at it go. You're looking for a measured leg, similar to that. You can see there's 2 measured legs down, and then there's just some congestion. And what happens here, and then look how it's rocketing the other way. What happens here is all the smart traders got short down through here. And all the amateurs, the people that don't know what they're doing, that don't understand how price action works, they're waiting for confirmation, and they finally see it go down twice without them. They said, next time I'm getting short. So they all get short right here. And that is right where these guys that have all been selling, the reason it's starting to congest here is they're buying. There's still some people that aren't smart enough to know, and they're coming in and selling. And the smart traders are all using that. They're using those orders and that volume of the traders going short to exit their trades. And then once it really starts to bounce, the last of the ones that went short, they all got to exit before they give their profit back. And then all the ones that were selling here realize they're wrong. They got to start buying, and that's why that huge run up comes there. So if you understand what price action is doing, this doesn't throw you off. You realize that what's happened. It's time for the market to correct. People are going to take profits. People are going to, and also new traders that were sitting here trying to pick bottoms are going to jump on and be right this time. Although they're going to get it wrong most times, they're going to be right that time, and they're going to all start piling in too. And that's why after this thing being so negative, I'd go short right here, just like all the other amateurs that don't know any better, that don't understand a chart and how price action works. I get short here, and as soon as I get short, I'm like, look at it moving all that way. As soon as I decide to get short, look what happens. Well, now I understand why this happened. Used to I'd think, this thing is rigged. This thing is rigged. And it's not rigged. You just don't know how to play the game. It's a game, and you don't know how to play it. And if you're going short right here, you don't know how to play the game. You got to learn the game. And the other thing that I hear a lot, especially from this particular trader, is he wants a rigid set of rules. Just give me some rules to follow. There aren't any, not in price action trading. Just like I explained to you earlier, the market can change on a dime, and you can't write rules to that. Idea is you just have to understand why things are doing what they're doing. What's going on here in the grand scheme of things is this is where all the support is down through here, and this is where all the resistance is. And so the place you want to be looking to get short is all down this line. If you just waited until prices came back to this line. He's got his a little bit high here, and if you dropped it down where it needed to be, there would be trades off of all of these. And if you just sold any of these pullbacks to the trend line, you would have not a single losing trade. And even though I don't condone it, if you'd have bought every time you got to the line down here, you wouldn't have had a single losing trade. So concentrate on selling high and buying low, and forget about selling down here at the lows and buying up here at the highs. These are all rookies buying up through here, and these are all rookies selling down here. These are the professionals buying down here and selling up here, and that's what you got to learn to do. So if you don't ever learn anything else, understand that your best opportunity to make money is to sell corrections back to the main trend lines, and then occasionally at the EMA. But even the EMA is not as it's not as reliable as the trend line. The trend line, look where all the big moves originated, at the trend line. There's a few that come off the EMA, but for the most part, they're off the trend lines. And when it's off the trend line and the EMA combined, you really get some good moves. So I hope that's clear for that guy. And there was one other chart I wanted to show. Oh, it's this guy. He was getting it pretty much right here, but he didn't have his channel right. And this is a good example of how it looks fairly decent, but notice how it didn't get there here. Notice how it overshot it here. There's a reason, and that's because he doesn't quite have this drawn right. It's a little bit steeper here, and that would have caught these better. That would have caught those two swings better. And then you would have had your break and moved to a new low, and then you would have realized what was going on here. But even having it the way he has it here, I could see him maybe taking this trade. It's not a very good signal bar. I would have used the limit order here, and if he had done that, 1, 2, 3, 4, he still probably wouldn't have got filled on it. But notice that one leg up, pull back, second leg up. So that's a second entry short counting here. But he called this a failed second entry long right here, and he went failed second entry long. This is not a failed second entry long. I don't know where you see that. Look at the new high, pull back, first entry long, pull back. That's a second entry long, and it looks better on your chart than it looked on my chart. And look at it go. And look how when this came back, it went right through the EMA. It couldn't get back down below it. It comes back down. So this is the second swing above the EMA. And when that one couldn't get through, you definitely don't want to be testing that EMA. That's just, I see that. It looks very bearish right there. And so if you're just looking for a second entry short that, because you got it in a good signal bar, then yeah, you want to take that trade. But if you understand what's going on, you don't want to be going short right there. A lot of that's just experience and understanding how prices react around the EMA. So what I always tell traders, this is where you learn. Taking these trades here teaches you nothing, even after they fail, because tomorrow you won't remember those trades. You won't remember all these little intricacies that I just explained. So the way you get better is at the end of the day, you get this chart out and you study how this looks. What is different about this trade than this trade or this setup? And why did this second entry fail? Study that until you figure it out. And then all of a sudden you realize, well, everything's above the EMA. We've already tested it once, twice. That's like the double kiss. It's like a double test. This EMA is just like a trend line almost. And you'll usually swing through it just like going short here. We swung through it once, twice, a couple of times, and then we were headed higher again. And but notice how nothing's closing below that EMA. Multiple swings. That's telling you something. Don't be going short into that. So, but again, the way you're going to get better at this is to get this chart out at the end of the day and study these trades. Study closely the ones that worked and the ones that failed, and see what's different. What is different here? This one's way above your possible trend line. This didn't go much further here. There's a little trap down here. Everything is above the EMA here, where here we were just kind of pushing through, but nothing, it wasn't holding. It pushed through here, but it didn't hold. It came back and tested again, and there's your great trade to the downside. I mean, look, there's a new high. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry. That's a failed second entry long. This one pulled back once, pulled back again. That's just a second entry long. It didn't fail. It's only a failure when it doesn't work for a scalp. Unless it ticked a tick or two higher and then turned down, it's not a failure. So I don't know how he sees that as a failed second entry long. That's just a second entry long, and it worked like a charm. Best trade of the day. And the other thing, he's got his channel working up, and we just came off the low side. So again, it doesn't mean that we won't come back and test it again, but the odds tell us we're probably headed to the other side. So again, when you at the end of every day, if you want to get better at this, you got to pull out your trading chart, put your trades on there, and study it. What worked? Why did it work? Why did this one work and this one didn't? Study that. And then why did one fail and the other one, why did the ones that failed fail? Study what's going on here. Why did this take off like a rocket? Well, it's because they trapped all these shorts. And when the market reversed right here, all the smart traders are jumping on, and all the dumb ones, I shouldn't say the dumb ones, but the ones that don't know any better than experienced ones, they got to start buying back all their shorts, and it rockets up. And that's what causes that. What made it rocket down right here? Notice how the market was just kind of uncommitted until right there. Why was that? That's because the longs gave up and they trapped the last of them right there, and they all had to exit, and that thing shot down real fast. And so I hope that's clear. And but I'm going to wrap it up. That's another 46, almost 47 minutes. We had a couple of those this week. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.